Hey everybody, how's it going? Thank you for coming to check out my Dolby Atmos mix of Focus by Ariana Grande. If you don't know me, my name's Nick Matzke. I'm a guitarist, mixing and mastering engineer, and I've been working professionally for over 15 years. In that time, I've done hundreds of mixes and masters, but this is actually my first Dolby Atmos music mix. Now, if you know what you're doing and you just want to come here to get the file and you know how to play it back properly, you can skip down to the link in the description, get the file, and go play it back. But for anybody that needs help with that, on how to play it back on a proper system, or maybe you don't even know what Atmos is, and I'll just talk a little bit about how I approached this mix and what I used to get into Atmos mixing. So I mentioned that I've been, playing music for over 20 years, working professionally for over 15, both as a guitarist and a mixing and mastering engineer, and I've done hundreds of mixes, but never dipped into Dolby Atmos mixing before. I have also, during that, but actually even longer, been a home theater fan. I think I got my first 5.1 system back in like 2000. And I've always had some sort of home theater system, whether that's 5.1, upgrading to 7.1. And then in 2020 was the first time I got a 7.1.4 Dolby Atmos system at home. It was in our living room at the time, which, well, it's still set up, but that was where my theater was at the time. And I actually just finished out building a dedicated home theater with a 7.1.4 Arendal system with a Rhythmic FV18 sub, JVC, and an X7 projector. It's an amazing experience. Dedicated home theater is something that's been a dream of mine my entire life, and it's been awesome. I think I heard my first Dolby Atmos movie mix in 2016, singing in a commercial cinema. And then, of course, like I said, 2020, started building out system at home and then buying a bunch of 4Ks and listening to a bunch of movies in Atmos, and it's great. And of course, once I did that, I was like, man, I really want to get into the music thing, but I had kind of something stopping me. In order to, mix in Atmos, you need to have the latest iteration of whatever DAW you're running. Like a lot of engineers, if you're working, right, you get your system stable and running, and you don't necessarily upgrade, unless it's a feature you have to have, because just having something running and stable is actually the most important thing, when you're working as an engineer or as a studio, right? So this computer is actually still running Pro Tools 12.4 because I wanted to ditch the upgrade plans and all that stuff. I just wanted to stop paying every year for the support plan and didn't want to go to a monthly thing. So I just kept this 12.4 running on high CR, right? Works great. It's stable, fast, works awesome. But I can't mix in Atmos on that, even in headphones, because I can't upgrade to the latest Pro Tools without upgrading the OS and all that. So yeah, like I said, I had been really interested, but just had really no way to do it, right? So I came across this guy, and I'll link to his channel, Michael G. Wagner. He's got some awesome stuff. He was talking about this plugin by this company, Fiedler Audio, I think is it, but it's called Dolby Atmos Composer. And it's basically like, if you know about Dolby Atmos, it uses this thing called the Dolby Atmos Renderer, which is kind of a standalone thing that works outside of Pro Tools or whatever DAW. And now they've recently, like Pro Tools has just integrated it into the DAW. This is kind of like its own renderer, and it works with any DAW. So I was actually able to get this plugin and start mixing in Atmos on this older, maybe what you would call a legacy system, right? I've been following one of my favorite YouTubers, Techno Dad, Chana Da Silva. I'll post a link to. He's got a lot of great Atmos mixes if you go check out his stuff. He's like a DJ, so he's kind of it's kind of what I ended up doing this mix, but it's more like taking stems and stuff from EDM and then just like an EDM and electronic music and kind of panning stuff all over the place, because you've got lots of things to do that with. If you just had just a band that's just a whatever, guitar, bass, drums, there's, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, that would be hard to mix in Atmos because there's not a lot of tracks there, right? You're just going to get this sense of space. But anyways, with electronic stuff or with pop stuff where there's a lot more stuff, you have a lot more tracks to move everything around in the space. Once I got this plugin installed, I was like, dang, I can mix Atmos now, right? Well, at least start. Put one track in there, start moving it around. In here, it's just a normal stereo setup. Now with the Dolby Atmos Composer, just like the Dolby Atmos Renderer, you can monitor in binaural just with headphones, okay? Now, binaural is kind of like fake Atmos, but not really. It's the best representation you can get in headphones. Stuff still kind of moves around you, doesn't really move above you as much, but a speaker system is where it's at. But the good thing is I could export the mix using either the method that Michael G. Wagner laid out, which was using Amazon Web Services to convert to an MP4. Now, I did find out later that my MacBook, which is running Catalina, that actually can support the Dolby Atmos renderer, the standalone. So you can make MP4s from that as far as getting it out to someone to listen to. So I would take the files that I did there, or that I did in here, and then put it on a flash drive and go play it back in my theater on the 7.1.4 system. So I've got a great monitoring system in there. Now, yeah, would it be nice to have all the speakers in the studio here? Someday, yeah, that will happen, but I'm just getting started with this. So, it's a big investment getting a whole nother set of speakers in here, and I just dropped a whole lot of money on the theater. So I had these stems for this song, Focus. I love Ariana Grande. She's like my favorite modern pop artist. And I really approached this from the standpoint of, this is for home theater fans and people listening to on speakers. This is not necessarily for the binaural. Now, you can listen to it in binaural. You can listen to it later on in the video. It'll be in binaural, and I've got the download links for that. But really, the main thing is try to download the MP4 and check it out on a actual Dolby Atmos speaker system. And the great thing about Atmos is that it scales up or down to whether you've just got a 5.1, 7.1. If you've got a 7.1.4, 7.1.6, 9.1.2, 9.1.6, it'll scale up or down to whatever, speaker configuration you have. You can also listen to it on your iPhone with AirPods, like newer AirPods, because then it'll have the head track, and then you can kind of turn your head around and the music stays fixed wherever you turn your head, or wherever the speakers are, it stays fixed, so you can kind of hear, better what's coming around you just by turning your head. Let's talk about how, if you want to check out this file, how do you do that? Now, again, I'll leave a link with a video that TechnoDad did, kind of explaining the whole thing. And I'm not going to explain the workarounds he did for the Dolby Access and the doing Infuse. It's in his video if you want to go check that out. But the gist of it is, and I've got the devices, which I copied the list of devices thanks to him for this compatibility device list of like 4K players and file players that you can use. I put that down in the description. So basically, what you're going to do is click the first link that'll take you to my recording studio website, and then you can download the file. It's not going to make you sign up for a mailing list or anything like that. It literally just will take you to a Google Drive folder. There's two versions of the MP4. They both sound the same. One is just at 720p and 30 frames per second. The other is at 1080p and 60 frames per second for the video. The 720p one was just exported using the Dolby Atmos renderer. The other one was joined using the Amazon Web Services convert method that Michael G. Wagner laid out. So what you do is you get that file. If you have any of the 4K players, like the Sony one like I have, or the LG, you can put it on a flash drive and just stick it in the front of the player, and it should play in Atmos on your system. There's also stuff like playing it on an Xbox Series X. Of course, any of the things like an NVIDIA Shield, Roku Ultra, a Zudu, Zapedi. If you have one of those, you can just dump it on there and it'll play back in there on Atmos. Another method is if you have a newer Mac. It's got to be one of the newer Macs that supports Atmos playback on its own, right? If you download it on there and then AirPlay it to an Apple TV, it'll play back in Atmos. And we just tried this yesterday. One of my students has a brand new MacBook, and we tried that out. Worked great. If you have AirPods, just download it on your phone, save it to the Files app, and I'll put up a little screenshot so that like how you know you're in Atmos. But basically, you swipe down from Control Center, hold down on the speaker thing, and it'll say Atmos if it's playing back in Atmos. And then to make sure to turn the head tracking on, so that's a good way to, And then if all else fails, if you don't have an Atmos system or don't have AirPods, you can listen to the binaural, which is like a stereo rendering of that spatial thing, which will be in the video connected here. I mix this for fans of home theater. This is almost meant to be like a home theater demo. There is so much crazy stuff going on. There's so much movement, like with the vocal that you probably wouldn't do normally in a pop mix. Now, I'm of the belief that Atmos mixes, they all should be a little bit crazy. Like if you just want to listen to the stereo mix, listen to the stereo mix. And if you want the stereo mix to be a little wider on a set of speakers, like the Dolby Surround Up Mixer does great just spreading it out. Like it does a really good job of just spreading it around the room. So if that's all you're going to do, to me, it's like, now again, if the client wants it, that's what you got to do. This is, right now, we're just talking about what I think, okay? A lot of the engineers mixing in Atmos fight this, that the client doesn't want it sounds too different from the stereo version. And we're also dealing with the whole thing of a lot of people are listening on headphones, not on speaker systems. So again, this mix was made for a speaker system. Yes, you can listen to the binaural. I've listened to it in binaural. Does it translate perfectly? No. Is it still pretty good? Yeah. But it's meant for a speaker system. And with that in mind, there's a lot of stuff moving around. Now, if you don't know about how Dolby Atmos mixing works, you can have things that are either in the bed or that are objects. Now, things that are in the bed won't show up. Like on the renderer, there's these little balls here. So anything that you render as an object, you'll see it moving around. Anything that's in the bed, you won't see as one of these balls, but you will see it in the meter up here. For example, like in this song, in the rears, in the pre-chorus, when the synth comes in, I've got it kind of jumping back and forth between the left and right rear surround, right? But that won't show up on here. You'll see it in the meter kind of bouncing back and forth, but since it's not encoded as an object. Now, most of the stuff that moves around, I made sure to encode it as an object, so you'll see it on the renderer. And the difference between object and bed is like, if you're doing a 714, there really is no difference. They will sound exactly the same, okay? It's when you scale up to a higher system, like let's say you add front wide speakers or a middle, top middle height. You got like 0.6 for the speakers above. Or let's say it's in a theater where you've got like whatever, I don't know, 32 speakers all around. An object will move around to all of those speakers, right? Where anything in the bed is just going to go into the main 7.1.4, So the object will move around more precisely in higher speaker counts. But really in 714, bed or object are basically the same thing. And it's kind of like, it's a whole nother topic, but it kind of like one of my favorite YouTubers, Shane Lee, when he reviews videos using the Trinoff, he reviews movies. And there's a few movies where, he'll say this is a static mix because it was encoded as bed and not object primarily. But it still can have, like, Ready Player One is one of the best examples of a mix that's static, but it's really just bed instead of objects. But it's amazing Atmos mix, and everything can still move around. It's just limited to that, 7.4 setup, as opposed to, if you scaled up, you're not going to hear that stuff in like front wides, right? But object is the best way to go because you can really more precisely move it within a larger speaker system. So this is basically like taking the stems, right, and really just doing panning. I did a little bit of EQ on some things to change some things around, but this is not like mixing in the traditional sense where you're like building something from the ground up. This is taking stems that were already mixed and mastered, and you're really just working on the panning and the level, right, when you're in Atmos. And that's the way a lot of engineers work. So they'll get the stereo mix done and then stem it out and then do the Atmos mix. Now, one of the cool things that I added for the home theater people is right when it goes into the pre-chorus, there's a bass drop, right? And it goes down to about 30 hertz is it deep as it goes, but really it's more centered around 40. What I did is when it starts dropping off at 30, I have a sine wave at 20 that kind of fades up and then fades back down, kind of to match the slope of the bass drop. So you'll get some real good rumble if you've got some big subs that can go down that low to 20 hertz. And I did that, added that in a couple spots in the song, right? I took that out of the binaural mix because that 20 hertz was kind of, even though the whole mix I did make sure I was at the minus 18 LUFS, which is the integrated level that you have to be at, like if you're going to submit a Dolby Atmos mix. That 20 hertz thing that I added was still kind of clipping the whole mix just a little bit. When you're listening at binaural, not on the speakers, it was fine. But so I took those 20 hertz drops out of the binaural mix, but it is in the MP4. So some cool things to look out for, right? So like I said, this is the renderer here, and as the song is playing, so you've got these balls moving around, so you can kind of watch these as they go, where you can kind of see the different things that are coming in. You can check the meters to see which speakers they're in. Some cool things to look out for, right? That I did that you can try to listen for. Like I said, I mentioned that thing about the synths in the pre-chorus, because you won't see those on the little balls that are moving around. It'll kind of go back and forth behind you, right? But like just from the start, you hear there's I took one of the build up like one of the risers. That's like an old Mutt Lange term. I have them go at the beginning. I put it at the beginning of the song, and it just like sucks up from the sides up into the heights, right? And then there's a bass drop right in the beginning before the main groove starts. So, like there's a guitar track that's like bump, 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 and whenever it goes to the low part, the bump, 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 I'll have that in like one speaker. Like let's say that's like the back left, and then the high part will be up in like the top, top front right, and then it'll move around to the bottom part's front left, then it'll do the high part in the top rear right or something. So you'll see that on there. So the guitar track bounces around. The vocal starts out in the center, and that's also a controversial thing. A lot of Atmos mixers don't like to put the vocal in the center, but being from the home theater thing too, I'm kind of used to hearing stuff in the center. So, but yeah, so the vocal you will hear move around, especially when it gets to the second verse, and of course all the ad libs are like moving around crazy into the heights, back and forth, stuff like that. There's the chorus when it gets to that, when there's like the Jamie Foxx vocal where he's like doing the focus on me. Focus on me. That goes around to like each speaker all the way around the bed layer, and you'll see that. There's this little synth chase, this like boop, 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 boop thing that I'll have. It kind of goes around in the heights and then goes around in the bed layer during that part. There is the really cool, when it gets to the breakdown, well, right before the breakdown, you'll hear Aaron, and she's like, 1, 2, 3, let's come on, come on, girls, whatever she says. But that goes in each one of the height speakers. So it's like 1, 2, 3, come on. And it's like in each of the 4 height speakers. And then it's got the horns doing that. So I've got that kind of going between, the side surround and the rears, kind of jumping back, and then it goes to the front, and then it jumps up just in the heights, going back and forth. And of course, all those risers, those special effects, those are usually either going from the sides up to the heights or the heights back down. And when it gets to the end, it's going absolutely crazy. You'll see there's a ton of objects on the screen going at once. So there's like all the stuff I mentioned going on before, plus there's this like, hey, background vocal thing that's just dancing around the whole room on the bed layer, as you go. So, and I'm probably forgetting some things that I tried. This was just I'm going to go as crazy as I can. This is meant to be a home theater demo. And I was kind of trying to follow the advice of the great Andrew Scheps, one of the great mixers of our time. And he's he was a big early adopter of Atmos. He's like, when you first start, just do all the crazy stuff. There's no rules, try everything. And that's kind of what I did here. So yeah, for future stuff, am I going to kind of rein some of this back? Yes and no. I mean, I feel like Atmos should always be like, to use one of Technodad Chana's terms, it should be a circus, unless it's just not unless you just don't have enough tracks to do it. If I want to listen to the stereo mix, I'll listen to the stereo mix. I don't need a stereo mix on steroids, Now, what I will hopefully get into is doing some Atmos mixes of some of my own stuff and stuff that I've mixed for clients, where I have, all the stems, and I can like print out maybe like the same reverb and print out some stems for the verb and the delays and start to move those around and then play around more with the space. I still always want to have some stuff moving, but maybe not be as crazy as this, and start to play around more with the sense of space that you can create. But I still just hate the idea of just like leaving everything in front and then just using the rears and the heights for like ambience, I mean, I guess that can work, but it just seems kind of boring. It's like, just listen to the stereo mix for that. So obviously I'm going to be doing a couple more mixes. I'll be dropping like this. Would appreciate it if you subscribe, check it out. I know this channel is normally all about guitar stuff. I do have a few mixing things where I've talked about like mixing my own stuff in the past. But I will be, dropping more of these mixes, and, when I get comfortable enough to the point where I've done a few, then I can, maybe start offering this as a service to clients. I want to, of course, because I'm really passionate about this. And, like I said, I mixed hundreds of songs over the years, and, I want to start doing Atmos. But yeah, eventually I will need to probably get a speaker set up in here, because, well, I'm very lucky in that I can mix on headphones and go quick quality control. It's kind of doing a car check, but like having a nice studio to do that with going in the theater. But yeah, eventually you want to have speakers so you can just make quick decisions. So anyways, thank you for watching and checking this out, and we'll see you next time.
I know what I came to do, and that ain't gonna change. So go ahead and talk your talk, 'cause I won't take the bait. I'm over here doing what I like. I'm over here working day and night. And if my real ain't real enough, I'm sorry for you, babe. Let's find the light inside our universe now. There ain't nobody keeping holding us down. Just come and get it, let them say what they say. 'Cause I'm about to put them all right.
Focus on me. Focus on me. Focus on me. Focus on me. Focus on me.
Focus,
Focus on me.
focus,
Focus on me.
focus,
Focus on me.
focus. I can tell you're curious. It's written on your lips. Ain't no need to hold it back. Go ahead and talk your shit. I know you're hoping that I'll react. I know you're hoping I'm looking back. But if my real ain't real enough, then I don't know what is. Let's find the light inside our universe now. When ain't nobody keeping holding us down. Just come and get it, let them say what they say. 'Cause I'm about to put them all right.
Focus on me.
Hey,
Focus on me. Focus on me. Focus on me. Focus on me.
focus,
Focus on me.
focus,
Focus on me.
focus. 1, 2, 3, come on, girl.